Hello and welcome back to our Stonemason Brisbane SEO case study. In this video we are going to be looking at schema markup, and I get asked questions about schema markup all the time because it's actually even within the industry it's very misunderstood and because it is very technical, a lot of people do get it very wrong. But today I'm going to be doing a step-by-step walkthrough of how I do schema and the tools I use and that type of thing, and then how I actually test the schema at the end. So we'll work through all of that. But first, let's have a quick conversation about what is schema markup. So essentially, schema is a set of code that sits on your website. It's not something that's actually visible to the customers that are going to your website, although it can create some visual elements. For example, in the last video, we did a search and we saw that some of the search results actually had stars next to them. Well, those stars are actually pulled through from schema markup on their on that person's website. And the reason for schema is to give Google more context about what's going on with a business and what's going on a website. So Google is essentially just a computer and I guess a robot that doesn't necessarily understand certain things, like, for example, if some of the content on the page happens to be an address, Google doesn't necessarily know that's an address. It might match that up with its maps, it may not. But if we add a little bit of schema and say, hey Google, this is our address, then when Google sees that on the page, well, it knows exactly what it's looking at, and it makes it a lot easier for Google. Hopefully that explains it reasonably well. But let's jump in and actually start creating some, and then you'll see it in a little bit more detail and just see kind of how advanced and how much extra context we're actually able to give Google through the schema markup. And actually, just before we jump in, there are several types of schema markup. Today we're going to be looking at local business schema because that's the most relevant for this particular website, so that's the one we'll be creating. Okay. So I'm going to be using a high voltage SEO tools website here. So this is basically a free schema tool that's out there. You just have to sign up. Don't need anything other than an email address to get an account here, and you'll be away. Excuse me. And the reason I'm using this tool is because at the time of this recording, which is currently the 1st of July 2019, this happens to be the best one that I've found so far on the market currently. So the reason I'm not using a plugin especially designed to create schema is to be honest, they're not great at it. The ones that are, reasonably sturdy and aren't going to break on you, they don't have as much detail, anywhere near as much detail as what we're going to be able to add through this system. So let's jump in and start working through. You can actually create the schema fully from scratch, coding it out, but this is a tool that will do most of the heavy lifting for you. You just have to feed it the information via this form, and it will, make it into the coding here. So let's jump in. Okay, so name is our name exactly as it would be on our Google Places account. I should also mention that this schema will help your rankings, not just of your website itself, but it will also help your map rankings because you're making a lot more of a connection between the two via this process. So alternate name, I generally add a keyword in here. And also we're creating this particular one for our Stonemason Brisbane page. Okay, so additional type. For this we're looking for a resource website that explains what it is that we're actually doing. So as an example, or the main one that we do is a Wikipedia page. So let's bring up Wikipedia. Okay, so stonemasonry is the kind of the close option that Wikipedia has. So we'll grab that and jump back over. Okay, so just to give you a little bit more information about this is kind of telling Google what type of service you are. Again, we're giving Google as much possible context about everything that you are trying to do. Okay, so for our description, we can use the one that we've created for, or one of the ones we've created for our social fortress. So I'll just go and grab that quickly now. Not sure what's grabbed exclamation points. Okay, so we need a image. So this is via a URL. So the one we usually use for this would be our the logo for our page. So I'll just quickly grab that. So by right-clicking and copy image address, then we just quickly check it. Yep, that's the one we're after. Okay, so main entity of page. So this is talking about our maps, Google Maps listing. So we actually have to create the URL to make it a clean URL. So what we do first is grab our generic, that is the same for everybody, and I will copy that in. And then we need to find our CID that correlates to the Google Places account for this business. Hopefully I'm able to find this pretty easily because it's a brand new business. It may be a little bit harder. So we want to go to the Maps section. Actually, sorry, I'll just search for the brand directly. And make sure it shows up on the right hand side here. And I will hit, on PC, I'll hit Control U to inspect the actual source code. And then Control F. And what I'm looking for here is a Ludo CID. There it is there. You can see it repeated a few times. So I just want to grab that number there. And I just want to extract out that specific number. There it is there. Okay, so if I jump back to, oh, wrong one. And add in the number. And then I'll just go to a new window and actually test that that has worked. Okay, perfect. So that's all we need for that one. So as I said, just search the brand name, make sure you're showing up on the right hand side. You want to inspect the source code and then find what's called the Ludo CID, and you're looking for that long number, which if you then add to the code we have here, one there, you will get the you'll be there ready to go. Okay, so same as is essentially looking for things that, other pages that are owned by your brand. So an example would be your Facebook page, your Twitter page, everything like that. So as we've done these, worked our way through the Social Fortress strategy, we should have quite a few that we can add in here. So I'll just grab a few of those from our Social Fortress spreadsheet. Okay, so I've just copied those and I will post them into there. Oh, I've left a gap there. Okay, so next is the URL. So this is the URL of the page that we're actually working on, not the homepage URL. This is the specific page that we're optimizing at the moment. Okay, so just open up the site and Stonemasons Brisbane is our page. So we're going to copy that. Okay, currency is accepted. Okay, so our open hours. Payments accepted. I'm just copying these in from another one, so you can copy this format as if you were to be creating your own here. So price range is just in the is how expensive are we. So I will go $2 sign, so middle of the road basically. Okay, so we can continue to add information if we have it, if we've won any awards, that type of thing. Okay, so email address, I'll grab that. Actually, I'll type that one out. It's just info at. Don't have a fax number. Just use the year here, that's fine. Legal name. Okay, if you had an ABN, which we don't have for this business yet, you would use that in your tax ID. Associated logo, we're going to use our image URL that we had before. Copy that one. Okay, our telephone. So we do have to be careful with our telephone because there is a format that we need to actually create that in. So it's a little bit different to normal. We're not actually copying and pasting this one, but I'll type this one out. Sorry, I'm just finding the phone number again. Okay, so HasMap is the next one we need to create. So just open a new window for the moment. And we're going to Google My Maps. And click on My Maps there. And then you're going to click on the big red button that says Create New Map. Okay, so this will be our keyword. I'm going to grab one of our descriptions. Okay. Excellent. So we're going to add our listing to the actual map here, and then what we're going to do is actually create some directions to our listing from around Brisbane, or from around whatever city you happen to be optimizing for. Okay, so I'm going to do it from a few different parts of from around Brisbane. And maybe suburb. Let's do Wacol. Okay, so the reason we're creating driving directions from different parts of it around the city is basically we're suggesting that this is all within the service area, and people would want to travel within that distance and come to our business. So I'll just do one more, actually, just because we can get a kind of a different direction. There we go. So now we're just getting a nice little blanket around Brisbane and a fairly decent service area that is kind of included here. Again, the reason we're doing this is to create that association that is quite reasonable to show our listing with basically anywhere within, a radius of where we've shown. So we may even, you might even want to move out a little bit further, but yeah, for now, that's more than far enough, because outside of I guess this ring here, it's kind of unlikely that you're going to show for the in the map section, but this technique does allow you to kind of extend that a little bit further. But yeah, there is a limit to how far it will kind of give you visibility for. Obviously, again, depending on how many competitors are out there. If there's less competitors, then there's more likely you'll show in a bigger service area. Okay, so now we want to share our map, and we want to make it public, can view. Okay, and we're going to copy that into our, firstly just into our notepad that we used a moment ago, because again, we're going to have to do some slight editing. Okay, so this time the code we will be using is here, and we just want to take the text before the end sign. And again, we just want to test that actually worked. And it has. So if we jump back to has map, we're good to go. All right. So now we want to actually move through as many of these as we can possibly fill out. Okay, so we don't have any reviews yet, but if we do, once we get a couple of reviews, we will add these in here. So rating count and review count are the same, just how many reviews you actually have, and the rating value is the score out of 5 that you have when you're, and this is referring to, generally speaking, referring to your Google My Business account. Okay, so we want to add some actual employees. Okay. And the reason we're adding employees is we want to get, if possible, we want to use some job titles that are relevant and have some keywords in them. So, for example, here we've got Gavin Peters, who is male and a stonemason. So we've actually got our actual keyword into the code again in a perfectly natural way. So there's no kind of stuffing there to do it this way. That's, it's quite normal to have this type of coding. So there's no problems there, but we've used our keyword again on the page, which is going to help. Okay. And we quite often use the founder as well, just because that will give you, again, another job title. There's not too many different job titles, though. I like them to be a little bit different, so I might just leave it at 1 for this particular optimization. Okay, so the last one we're going to do is our longitude and latitude. Okay, so we're just going to a website that gives you the lat and long of an address and copying this over. So latitude. And you also want to look at the map and just make sure you're referring to the right place there, and we are. And you definitely want to save this as you go, because then when you're creating the next page, it's a little bit simpler, because there is generally always a lot of overflow between pages. We don't want them identical, but yes, we do definitely want to save all the work here that we've done as much as we possibly can. Okay, so I'm going to copy our text here and go back to our notepad and just remove everything there. Okay, and something that this will actually add to the code here that we need to get rid of is this, the template name. That's not a code that you can actually use, and I don't know why, but whenever you're actually saving this, it will add that code in, and you don't want to get confused and have that break the actual coding that you're trying to add, or serve errors in the coding that you're trying to install. Okay. Okay, so just before I post this, there is there is an additional little piece of code that I do like to add to these. So I'll just post that in here now. And no. So if we do a brand search here and we're showing up on the right hand side here, what we will do is I'm going to get the MREID code here. So I'll copy that and paste it in here. And then I will grab that and paste it in there. And just need to add a comma to continue the way the coding works. And this additional piece of code is essentially Google's association of who you are. So if you basically, you can only do it if you're showing up in the, wrong window, sorry. In the knowledge graph section here. And to get this, I've got it bookmarked, but to get this MREID, all you need to do is do a Google search for get the MREID. Sorry, that's a mouthful. And here it is from Upbuild. And basically you just have to drag this link into your bookmark bar and it will add it there, and then you can use it on any Google searches. But just make sure that, again, that you're showing up on that knowledge graph on the right hand side before you hit the MREID, just because it's not going to give you an accurate ID if that's that's not on the page, and that is who Google associates you as. So that shouldn't change over time, or that won't change over time. But yeah, it is important, and it does again give Google context on exactly who you are, and increase the connection again between your brand name and that Google listing. So let's go back to our sheet here. So now we want to grab our code, and we would normally either test it here or add it to our website and then test it. But let's just add it directly to the website and we can test it on the website. Okay, so this is our page. Okay, so when we were working, got the site delivered earlier today, we added a plugin which was called SEO header and footer scripts. And it allows you to add code that is specific to this page. So it will only add it to the header of this specific page and not the rest of the website. So if we update that, probably get rid of a few of these warnings. Okay, so they don't keep annoying us. And then if we go to view page, we can grab our URL and go to Schema Test. So this is a Google tool that allows you to test to make sure that the schema that you've built is all working correctly. Okay, so you can see here we have 0 errors and 0 warnings, which is great. Excuse me. So we have two types of schema here. So web page is one that's actually automatically added via the Yoast plugin. Unfortunately, there's no way to turn it off, but that said, it isn't an issue to have multiple types of schema because it is a website and it is also a local business. So it's quite reasonable to have both. But if we jump into our local business schema here, you can see again 0 errors, 0 warnings, so it's all working fine. And just to run through quickly, so we've got our ID, which is what who Google associates us to be. We've got the currency, opening hours, the payments we take, our price range, our main email address, the year we were founded, the legal name, our logo, telephone number there. This is the My Map that we actually created. We have the name, the alternate name, the type of business it is. So that's the wiki page that explains to Google that yes, we're all about stonemasonry. We have our description of the business. We have an image, the main entity of the page. So this is the Google Maps listing ID that we created from the Ludo CID. Okay, so this is a bunch of, so this is our Facebook, Twitter, and a couple of others there that lets Google know that we're the same business as all of these. We've got the actual URL that we're working on. Okay, we've got our address and our employee here, Gavin Peters. He's a stonemason as a job title, his personal email address, and the geo coordinates of our location. So this is all information that Google now has. Google will be able to 100% understand and associate with our business, and it's just information that it can't get if you don't kind of point it in the right direction and make the connections for it. So if we jump back to our tool here and just have a look through. So as we move through to the next page that we're going to create, so we don't have to actually update everything. We would update our alternate name. We'd likely put in a new description. Images would stay the same, that's fine. Our address isn't going to change, that's fine. Same as isn't going to change. We have all the same other entities for the business, or other web properties, I should say. We're still, all of this information is all still the same. Basically, everything's the same. We might like to change our employees if we have a specific employee for different parts of the business, not necessarily for this type of business, but let's just say you have a plumber, for example, and you might have a page about gas plumbing, so that would have a different employee with a different job title likely, depending obviously on the size of the business. You could always make these up, but it is better, always better if they're real people. Okay, and the location isn't going to change. All of this is fine. So when we update to the next URL, it will just basically be our alternate name updating to the new keyword, the URL updating, and we might like to put a different description, and it's definitely better if we do put a different description for each of the pages just to get a little bit of extra differentiation there between the pages, that Google knows it's definitely a different, it has to make slightly different associations there. Okay, so we won't actually go through and create all the rest of the pages. We'll do, this has already been a long one, so we will, I'll do the rest of those off camera and get those all finished and get them live on the site for the other three or four pages that we're actually going to promote for this business. Okay, so that's it for this business. We still have a little bit to work on, so we will see you in the next video.